What's going on, everyone? So it's been a while since I did a little video on this YouTube channel. In the last few weeks I've just been really busy and didn't have the time, but now I finally have a day off to try to do this, so I figured I'd try to make a quick video. So today I want to talk about something a little bit more guitar specific. Well, I mean, most of this channel is mainly guitar specific, but this one especially applies mainly to guitar because that's the way I know, the instrument I know the best. And what I wanted to talk about today is freedom on the neck, or freedom while you're soloing specifically or improvising. Because what I find is there's a lot of people that are interested in expanding their ability to solo, but they only know like that one pentatonic shape, like the first one that you typically learn as a guitar player. And they usually stick to that, but when they try to venture out of that shape, so like at the guitar, usually they'll know like this shape, but the second they try to go away from that shape, like, they don't know where any of those notes are, so they're kind of lost if they go anywhere else on the neck. And this is definitely something that I dealt with years ago as well when I was trying to learn more about the guitar. And then when I went to MI, I learned a lot of helpful things to help me kind of venture outside of into areas that I'm not used to on the neck. So today I wanted to talk about some ways that I learned how to essentially memorize all the notes and the scale shapes everywhere on the neck, as well as a few other tips and tricks and some exercises that I use that really help me get those notes under my fingers. So let's get started. So first of all, you'll notice there's lots of notes on the guitar, and it's kind of confusing for guitar players because we also get multiple strings which have multiples of the same notes. So like, for example, those are all the same note. It's the note E, except I'm just playing it in lots of different places. Now, I'd say the first step to really learning freedom on the neck, or one of the first steps anyway, is there's no other way around it. You have to memorize all the notes on the neck. And the reason you have to do that is if somebody says, oh, we're playing this song in the key of C, you have to know, okay, well, where's C? There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one up here, and there's one way up there. And you need to be able to catch wherever that note is, as well as where all the other notes in relation to that is. So typically the way I like to teach students is I'll start with the A string, because it just starts on A. And if you play all the natural notes starting on A, it's just going to be the alphabet. It's going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And that's the thing about music, is all the notes go up to G and then they reset back to A. Now, going back to a little bit of music theory, or if you know how to play piano, you probably already know this, but if you start on A and play all the natural notes starting on A, you actually get the minor scale. So in this case, I'll show you the formula for a minor scale, which is going to be a whole step, or in other words, 2 frets up. So you're going to go A, and then up a whole step, which basically just means go up 2 frets. So second fret is going to be B. And then the next note is C, which is a half step up, which if a whole note is 2 frets, that means a half step is going to be 1 fret. So we got C on the 3rd fret. And then from there you go up a whole step to D, then go up another whole step to E, go up a half step to F, then a whole step to G, and then one more whole step, which brings you back to A. So when you memorize this pattern, which the formula again is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, which I'll also put it up right here. But if you know that pattern and you memorize those notes, then from there you just fill in the blanks, which all the other notes are just going to be the sharps and flats. So in this case, 1st fret is just going to be A sharp, B flat. Then you get D sharp, E, or C sharp, D flat. And then you get D sharp, E flat. And then you get F sharp, G flat. And then G sharp, A flat. And when I'm learning them, I like to say both, because in that way I learn that both of them are essentially the same thing. Even though typically when you explain things to other musicians, you're not going to say A sharp, B flat. You're just going to choose one or the other. But anyway, once you get that memorized, then it's pretty much just applying it to every other string. So from there, you could just follow the same formula. So you start on A, follow that same pattern. So whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. And that pattern is just going to be the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then going down, if you want to memorize these notes, you just go backwards. So A, G, F, E. Now, once you're getting more familiar with the neck and where all the notes are, what you want to do is actually start learning some scale shapes. So maybe you already know some, maybe you know that that one pentatonic scale. Or maybe you know like a minor scale shape. However, you want to venture outside of that shape and go all over the neck, then what you need to do is actually learn shapes of the same scale all across the neck. And there's a lot of different ways to do this, but the way that I was taught when I went to Musicians Institute is what's called the CAGED system. Now, the way the CAGED system works, each letter in the word CAGED, C-A-G-E-D, refers to the open chords. So we start with C. We start with C. And then A, G, E, then D. And basically what those chords represent is the general shape of the scale you're going to play. Because generally guitarists already know open chords, so from there you just take those open chords and just move them to other places. So in this case, I'm going to play everything in the key of D right now. So in this case, first position being C in the word caged, so that's going to be a C chord. But if we want to play in the key of D, you're going to basically shift that up to 5th fret. So that shape is going to look like this. So from there, I'm just going to play the shape really quickly, but I'll also put the tab up right here so you can tell when I'm playing. So it sounds like this. Also note that I have a 7-string guitar right here, and if you're somebody who plays an extended range guitar, make sure you're going all the way down through all of the strings, because it's really helpful to know all of the strings. So that's that shape, which is called first position, or you can also call it the C shape. And then from there we just go to the A shape, so that chord. So you just go up to the D note and play the A shaped D chord. Now with the major scale, even though you start this chord with your first finger, you're going to want to start the scale with your second finger, or your middle finger. And this scale shape is going to look like this. Now really quickly, I'll just show you one more shape, but I think you're kind of getting the pattern at this point, and then you could probably figure out these shapes on your own, but if you want, you can also just look them up online. They're everywhere online. So last one's going to be the G shape. So in this case, you're going to play this chord like this. Let me put like this. And from there, you're going to move that up to the note D. So your pinky is on D, and you're going to play that same shape. Just up here. And this is probably a shape you're more familiar with, but it looks like this. So if you're getting a pattern, there's going to be 5 shapes, because C-A-G-E-D, that gives us 5 shapes. And if we go to the E shape, that'll be... And then D shape is the one that starts on the D string. And it's going to be... But then after that, you're essentially just back at the same shape. So that's why there's only 5 shapes, because after that shape, you're back at first position. Just an octave higher. And I also want to emphasize that when you're learning these, you're not going to think about these as like, when you're soloing, you're not going to think, oh, I'm in first position. Oh, now let's go to second position. Oh, now let's go to third position. You're not going to be thinking about the positions. Once you get it down, you're just going to go through each one like... And just seamlessly without really thinking about it. But in the beginning, it is going to feel like you're kind of trapped in between these shapes, because you're going to know how to solo within them, but you're not going to know how to solo in between them. So that would be the next step that we have to learn. So I like to think of the CAGED system, or really any system for learning notes on the neck, as being like training wheels. It's something you use in the beginning as a tool, but once you memorize the notes really well, then you don't really think about it. Now, when you watch people solo, it's actually really boring when you watch them just go up and down the scale diatonically like that, or just going up by each note or stepwise, because it just sounds like an exercise. Now, if you find you're doing stuff like that a lot, then one thing you could do is start playing the notes in different orders. So one thing that I did was, the first thing, I would organize them in groupings of different intervals. So if you know your intervals, you know a third is basically just skipping up a note in the scale. So if you start on D, you can go from D to F sharp. Then you go back a note to the second note, so that's going to be E. And then you go up to G. And then go back to F sharp. And then from here you can see the pattern. You're essentially just skipping a note and then going back. So you go. And you can just do that for the whole shape. And then going back down, you just do the opposite. So if you know how to play it like that, you can try sequencing the scale in fourths. So basically what I mean by that is you go D, you go up to the fourth note in the scale, which is G. And for there you go back to the second note. Then go a fourth note away from that, which is going to be A. So by fourth away from that, I mean you're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the fourth note away from that note. And from there you go to the third note in the scale, and then go a fourth away from that, and etc. So here you get D, G, E, A, F sharp, B, G, C sharp, E, A, then D. So then you can get used to playing sequences like that. There you can actually get some cool licks just doing that. And basically you want to just do this for every interval, so even going up to fifths to sixths. I had to think about that for a second. And so on. So you can just do that for every single interval, and that'll really force you to learn that scale shape. And then you want to do that for every single shape. And then from there, another thing you could do is organize it into each chord. So if you know your music theory and you know how chords come out of the scale, you get the first chord, which is going to be the root, third, fifth. And then you can do the same thing from the second chord. So the root, third, fifth, starting from there, and then. And then organize every single scale using arpeggios. And once you know triads, you can try seventh chords with that. And what I like to do with a lot of these is actually go up the arpeggio and then go down the arpeggio and then back up and then back down. So the pattern looks like this. Now that really helps you memorize the notes within those shapes, but what if you want to connect those shapes and actually go from like here to other places like right there? So here I'm still in the key of D. What you could do is basically what I did right there is I started, in this case I started on B, and then I played this shape. But in order to get to the other octave, what I did is I just shift up to this note, and now I'm on B again. So if you started on B right here and played this shape, if you go up to here, you just play that same shape again. Of course, keeping in mind that G and B is a third away from each other because of the way guitar is tuned, so that means you're going to have to shift up one fret. But it's still the same exact shape. So if you start that from the E string, it gives you more of a clear pattern to work with. And from there, that's one way you can kind of venture out into other shapes just on the fly without sticking to one the whole time. Now, another thing that I like to do, which not a lot of people I see really teach this, which is kind of odd, but it's actually really helpful, is learning your scales on one string. So if we stay in the key of D, what we can do is start on D and take that and learn how to play the scale in that one string. So basically just know where all the notes are, and then you want to do that on all the strings. So D, the D string is just going to start on open D. On E, it's going to start way up here. On G. On B. And then the high E is just the same as low E. So it's good to also know that, because if you're in the middle of soloing and you want to go to another shape, you can actually just go down one string. Maybe come up with a lick on one string. And that can help you carry a line onto another string. Alright, so that's about it as far as memorizing notes and kind of organizing notes in different ways on the neck. But as far as actually applying them, one thing that I started doing just to make sure I know where the notes are is I would play what I call the eighth note game. So basically how it works is I would play nothing but eighth notes and basically just go around the neck playing only in the key of C using eighth notes. So you can just do this with the metronome to start, or maybe you could actually put a backing track on. So let's say your tempo is like, so you just go. And basically try to go as far away as you can on the neck. Just go all the way down and go all the way back up. And that'll really solidify where all the notes are. And of course, all this stuff you also want to be able to do in different keys. So that's why I switched to a different key there, just to make sure that I know where everything in C as well as D is. So you want to be able to do that in just any key. You could just call out a random key like, okay, B flat, Alright, so that's about it for today. That's about all the tips I have. I hope I have something, a little something for the beginners as well as the more advanced players who know some shapes but want to get even more advanced with it. Keep in mind, everything in this video I pretty much learned within the course of like a year, or even more than a year, because I'm even still working on some of this stuff to this day. So don't expect to learn all of this really quickly, unless you're just really fast at memorizing things. This will probably take over the course of a year or a little over a year, or maybe in a few years. But eventually, if you just keep sticking to this and doing these little exercises and memorizing all the notes on the neck, this will really unlock the entire neck for you, and you'll feel a lot more free when you're trying to solo or make up melodies for songs and stuff. But anyway, that's all I have for today, so I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new today. And thanks for watching as always, and I will catch you in the next video.